So, hi, welcome all in our online series, Graduate Program Application. So this is the first in our series. Other three events will happen on July 28. The third one will be on August 18, and fourth one will be on September 15. So please join our online series. My name is Bharat Rathore. I'm the founder and coordinator of Bahujan Scholar. Bahujan Scholar is basically a network of graduate students, faculty, and professionals from academia outside India. The purpose of the network is to support each other, all the Bahujan Scholars, and organize online events on academic and professional development topics and mentoring. I would also request to all the participants there, I'm going to put the feedback link in the chat box. Please take that feedback survey, to know your feedback, your experience on your perspective, so we can improve our events and what kind of topics you would like to cover in our series. Thank you. And we have two fantastic panelists. Let me first share the Yeah, we have two fantastic panelists, Durgesh and Ankita Nikhalje. Let me introduce Durgesh. Give me a minute. Yeah, sorry, some technical issue. Okay, so Durgesh Solanki is a PhD candidate in the Department of Sociology at Johns Hopkins University. His research interest lie at the intersection of medicine and health, race and caste, and social inequality. Durge's current research focuses on how skin color and race are conceptualized and contested in dermatological education, practice, and associations. His previous work has examined the relation between plague outbreaks and colonial governance in late 19th and early 20th century, and the persistence of caste-based sanitation work in India. Durgesh holds MA and MPhil degree from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. So Durgesh will go first, and then our second panelist is Dr. Ankita Nikhalje. So Dr. Nikhalje is an assistant professor at University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee in counseling psychology. She graduated with her PhD in counseling psychology from Purdue University, has psychology degree from Australia and UK. Dr. Nikhalje's research focuses on the impact of historical, systemic, and institutional, interpersonal, and internalized oppression on lived experiences and mental health. She is particularly passionate about the issue of caste-based discrimination in South Asian diaspora and uplifting the experiences of those who are minoritized within the communities and social identity groups. As a Dalit woman, she is critical of the caste hierarchies that are endemic in South Asian knowledge production, research, and practice. As Dr. Nikalje brings her experience and knowledge as a mental health professional and researcher to address the need for critical theories and frameworks in defining colonial and liberation psychology from South Asians. So first, I would request Durgesh, and both the panelists will have 15 minutes to share their ideas, and the rest of the time we will have a discussion and question answer. So Durgesh, please go ahead.
Thank you, Bharat. I have a PPT to share with everyone, so I'll just share my screen and start. Jai Bhim, everyone. Can they see my screen? Yeah. So I'll be talking about how to write the graduate school statement. So I just wanted to check, you can raise your hand or give some reaction, like if anyone has written a graduate school statement. Like I know like there are universities in India also these days are requiring a some sort of statement. So if anyone has written any statement.
You can raise your hand, please.
Okay, I don't see any reaction. So I'm assuming that nobody has written any statement, and this is like the first time that you are getting to know about how to frame a graduate statement. So let's break it down. So there are a couple of caveats that I'll like to make before I start. So this is specifically to applying to a doctoral program in US. Each country has different requirements. I know like UK has like a larger research proposal instead of like a school statement, whereas US is much more a school specific statement. So I would focus on US right now because that's where I have experience and I have written statement for my program as well. So yeah. So there are two kinds of graduate school statements. I would just break it down. One is like statement of purpose or personal statement. And the second is research statement and personal statement. So different universities have different requirements and they name it differently. So I would highly recommend if you are thinking of applying to any program, just go to that university website, look at what is the requirement, like what do they mean by personal statement or statement of purpose. What is the requirement in terms of length, like 1,000 words, 1,500 words. On an average, the personal statement should be from 1,000 to 1,500 words, excluding your references and footnotes if there are any. Then there is the second point is the research statement and personal statement, which are two different categories. So make sure what they are looking for. So I'll give you some examples from what I've seen. So this is I've taken a screenshot from sociology department at University of Rutgers. So in their personal statement, they require like a two single space pages, which is roughly around 1,000 to 1,200 words. And they have given specific prompts of like what you should be addressing in personal statement, right? So why do you wish to pursue a graduate degree in sociology? It could be any program. It could be political science, it could be history, it could be English literature. So I think the first question is like, why do you want to pursue this graduate degree? Second would be, what kind of scholarly work in sociology most interests you? So this again could be replaced by a discipline that you are interested in. Third would be, why do you wish to join the graduate program at Rutgers? Again, like why Rutgers and not any other university? So I think that has to be very specific. Each personal statement has to be catering towards a university. And how do you hope to use your degree, PhD degree? Again, you need to think about like what you will do after getting this PhD degree. So I think each university would have some sort of prompt that you need to respond to. So please go through the website before writing or write something and then tailor it or cater it to that university specifically. The second example is of University of Michigan, again, sociology department. So here they require two statements. One is the research statement and a personal statement. So both are somewhat similar, but also different. So this is like you have to write it in two parts. So the academic purpose of statement or research statement could be, as they mentioned, it could be like 1 to 3 pages, which is again roughly 1,000 to 1,500 words, excluding references. And the personal statement, they've mentioned it should be around 500 words. So again, as you can see, like they have given clear prompts of what should be going in each of the statements. So again, it's somewhat similar to what Rutgers has said, like, why do you want to pursue a career in sociology? Like, what questions or problem interest you? How do you want to address these questions? What sub-plan interest, if applicable? Why do you want to pursue your graduate degree at University of Michigan? So as you can see, there's a common theme emerging out of all these questions. And the second part is about the personal statement, where you'll tell them about your journey or your life experiences. And I think it's really important to share if you like most of us come from backgrounds which are not privileged. So you tell them like why you how much you have, how difficult it was, how tough it was for you to as growing up and accessing education in India. So this is a way to give your individual experience the words that they should be knowing about. Yeah. Um, so based on what different statement of purpose or like statement of purpose, I've gone through different universities, and these are the 6 questions that I have come across, which are common to most of the statement of purpose or research statement. And I think these are the way I would start is like individually answer these questions like in 200 to 300 words, and then try to form a narrative through each, like form a narrative and make those connections and then make an entire statement. So I think the first, a really important question is, what is the question that animates your research? Like what is that one question that is informing your research? And this is very important. So for me, it was like um as in before I started my work on race in US, I was looking at like how caste gets reproduced in urban spaces, right? So like that was that was the question that I was really interested in, like how caste is reproduced in urban spaces. So right now, like what I'm looking at in my current research is like how race is constructed within the field of medicine. So that's the research question that is really important to me right now. So how will you answer this question? Like there are different ways of answering this question. Like what are the methods that you will use to answer this question? So it could be qualitative, quantitative, depends on your field, like what kind of methods you use. What are the theoretical perspective you will be using to answer this question? Are you going to be extending certain theories, or are you going to be using what theories are going to inform your research? So again, you need to know some basic concepts and theories. What is the relevance of this question? I think this is really important because most often we think, oh, a simple answer that we give is like, oh, nobody has studied this. Oh, I went to this village and nobody has studied that village, or no, that's part of India or any. But that's not an answer to give. Like, what is the relevance? What are the, like, if nobody has studied, maybe it's not important to be studied. So that's a simple answer that I often hear from faculty members. So I think instead of that, you need to answer it more from a theoretical perspective or methodological perspective of why studying that particular issue or particular community is so important, and what are the larger implication of this research. So the implications could be theoretical, methodological, or policy implications. So depending again on your subfield or field, these implications could be different. Why is this program a good fit for your work? So why are you applying to X university instead of Y university? Why they should accept you? So I think for this, you need to go to the university website, their department website, see what is their specialization. So like there are certain programs, at least in sociology, there are certain programs which are known for cultural sociology or environmental sociology or medical sociology. So then is that what you want to do? Then you are a good fit in that program. And you should mention the faculty members that have inspired your work from uh, in developing this research question or idea. Um, uh, and how will you benefit from being in that department? So like what are the resources that are available in that department that will help you in answering the research question that you have in hand, right? So the next question is, how will your previous research, like your education, your MA thesis, or any work experience will prepare you to answer the question? Or, so you should just mention whatever work experience you have. Everything should be connected in a certain way, like maybe your research, you learn certain methodology in your research, or your research was kind of connected to how you arrive to a research question. The one thing I would like to mention is whatever research you're proposing shouldn't be a replica or just a mere extension of your master's thesis or the research that you have already done. Because most often time we think, oh, this could be an extension. Yes, it could be an extension, but it should be a slightly ambitious extension of your research project, which I think they're looking for a project which is ambitious plus can be doable in your time as a PhD student. So don't make it so ambitious that it can't be finished in 5 or 6 years of your PhD time. So yeah, it has to be something innovative, creative. It doesn't need to be really ambitious, but it has to be something which is not what you have done previously. Uh, what do you see yourself doing after finishing? This is like probably a few lines on like what you want to do and how this department will help you in achieving your career goals. So for a personal statement, there are like 3 questions that should be important to framing it. So it's an opportunity for you to talk about your experiences that has led to your graduate study. And what are the motivations behind for you to study like a degree in a PhD in a certain field. So this could be various, like it could be it's a very individual statement. So you have to give your personal touch to it. How your previous research experiences further the university goals related to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think this is really important for Bahujan folks because I think we don't often write about this or speak about it, but it's a good way to speak about this in your personal statement. The third would be discussing like whatever, like if you're a first gen, mention it in your personal statement that you're a first gen, you didn't have any resources while growing up, or whatever adversity or family background you come from, mention it in this personal statement. So some tips for writing. Consider your opening statement of purpose with a vignette. This could change depending on your discipline or field that you're applying to, but at least in my experience, it has been often like useful to relate it to some sort of like research that I've done or personal experience that kind of gets the audience interested in what my research statement is. So I think use each paragraph to have a single point and make sure to include a very strong topic sentence. Topic sentence would be like the important starting statement, which kind of engages the reader into reading your entire paragraph and not just skimming through it. Because the committee which is reviewing your application receives like 100 to 100 applications, and what makes your application stand out is things like how it's framed, like what are the opening paragraphs, like what is the memorable thing from your statement that sticks with the committee. So see this as more like a storytelling thing, like it's more like a narrative version of your CV, where you're connecting different parts of your life together or stitching a narrative kind of thing. And don't make generic statement without example. So if you're saying something, always back up with an example of like how you can say like, yeah, I have a holdover qualitative method, or I have learned a qualitative method, but say it like how you have used that method in your past research, like not just knowing it, but how you have used that research method. So I think that's like always give, whenever you're telling something about yourself, give it with an example. Try to use simple language, don't use fancy words, clear language, small sentences are also fine, and get as much feedback as you can from different folks who have done this. That's really important. And I think it's really important to share your work with others, and getting feedback is really important while doing this. But it could be very individualizing, and it could be very isolating, the entire process of application. So I think having a community around is a good idea. Yeah, I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Durgesh, like on time, like bang on. Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for your nice, wonderful presentation. And really, this is very helpful, particularly for young people, those who are planning to apply and in the process currently in. Now I would invite Ankita. Please, actually, you can share your ideas now. Please go ahead.
Can you give me a screen sharing option, please?
My bad.
All good.
Here you go.
Okay, perfect. Share. Okay. Jai Bhim, hi everyone. So I have just created a very brief handout, putting together just good advice for choosing and writing a writing sample for your graduate application. Now, because every discipline will have very different criteria, what is considered academic and scholarly is also very different across the different criteria. So I've tried to keep the advice as general as possible, and then we can ask specific questions. So a writing sample is evidence of your proficiency and interest in your field of study. Importantly, not all schools ask for writing samples. Writing sample is only one part of your entire applications, and different schools have different requirements for the written sample. So before you put in the energy of identifying, tailoring, polishing your writing sample, make sure your application actually requires it. So before even going into this, first make sure you have shortlisted the schools and the programs you're going to apply to, and you know that they require a writing sample. Should they require writing sample, follow all the instructions provided by it. I can tell you, you could have a really good written piece of work, but if it has typos, does not follow the instructions that are provided, from a faculty perspective, that instantly like loses points, because especially as I'm seeing, to take on a graduate student, I want someone who can like follow the instructions, right? Basic follow instructions, attention to detail. So these are some of the more like hidden behind the scenes things that are you being evaluated on that might not explicitly be put up front. So if it says your writing sample cannot be more than 10 pages, do not take the risk of doing 12 pages, assuming that no, it's okay, it'll be overlooked. If it is 10 pages, you stick to 10 pages, whatever happens. So those are those little nuances that you want to pay attention to. So what type of work should you submit if your application asks for a writing sample? So as much as you might want to submit like your best piece of written work that is not academic or scholarly, just err on the side of just playing it safe and choose academic or scholarly work. Now, every field might consider academic or scholarly work different. So for me, in psychology, research papers are considered scholarly work. If I was to submit, say, an op-ed that I wrote, that would not be considered scholarly work, even if I'm very, very proud of that op-ed and it is the best piece of writing I have done. Um, find out what is considered academic or you might be in a public policy field, and a policy brief is considered scholarly work, right? So make sure you know what those are, and that clarification might also be given in your guidelines or instructions that they've given. Sorry, I think I was muted. So how should you choose what to submit? So ideally, when they're asking you for a written sample, the assumption is that this is something you've already written, done as part of your degree at some point, ideally your last highest degree, right? So if you're in a master's program applying to a PhD or coming from a bachelor's going into a master's, your thesis, your capstone project, your final paper that you have written, that is what is the expectation in terms of the submission. You're not expected to write a brand new paper. as much as possible. However, if you find yourself in a situation where you absolutely don't have anything to submit, then you can consider the option of submitting, writing something for the purposes of that application, but ideally just pick something that you have already written. It's more than just a summary or a broad essay, but a piece of writing that shows your ideas and your arguments, right? So more than, it's like well written, well organized, it shows your thinking and is without errors or mistakes and has like consistency with citations and references. What you can also do is you can update something you've written and tailor it to your application, right? So you wrote a research paper, submitted it for a class. Now this application is calling for a written sample, but it has 2 or 3 different criteria. They're wanting you to show something specific for it. So you can just take that and update it for for the purposes of that application. Now, ideally, please submit like single author material, right? So something that only you have written, because then it's very clear that, okay, this person has written it. If you absolutely need to submit collaborative work, then it needs to be extremely clear what parts you have written and what parts you have contributed to, right? So as an example, you can use this credit. I'm just gonna pull it up. Can you see the other screen? Or are you still seeing the handout?
We can see only the handout, the Word file.
Okay. Okay, so in case you choose to submit a piece of work that is collaborative, here is an example of a system you can use to indicate the parts that you have done. And this is absolutely should be like not what you choose to do, but if you do submit a collaborative piece of work, then here are the ways in which you can break it down to indicate which ones you have done versus your authors have done. So that way your readers know what parts are your contribution, so they know what to evaluate you on. So let me go back to the next part is around what are these writing samples evaluated on. Going into a graduate program, you are going to be doing a lot of writing. More likely than not, it is a research-based degree. So your writing skills are going to be very, very important. That doesn't mean it has to be like extremely high quality, but even if you're writing, if it's like simple, accessible language, make sure it does not have any spelling, grammatical errors, and that is free of typos. At this point where we are with technology, having spelling, grammar, typos as errors is pretty much not acceptable, especially when they're looking for your ability to pay attention to detail and be able to do graduate level quality of work. Looking at the organization and clarity, right? So is there a logical flow to the ideas that you have presented? What they've asked you to do for the written sample, if they made a very specific request around here is the topic you have to write on, have you actually talked about that topic, right? So it again goes back to what are the guidelines, what are they asking you to do? And then critical thinking, right? Do you thoroughly understand the topic, different theories or approaches? And like similar to what Durgesh said for the personal and research statement, are all your claims backed by reliable research, right? So if you're submitting a research report, or even if it's a policy brief, have you done the correct citations, the references, and are they from reliable sources, right? So this is a way for them to see, okay, can you do research? Can you do citations? Can you read research as well? And then similarly, relatedly, like, have these been properly cited and do they have a corresponding reference, right? So though different fields might be asking you for different things, these are broadly some like overall pieces that you can pay attention to, irrespective of whether you're applying sociology, psychology, English, philosophy. Just paying attention to that overall writing skills, structures, critical thinking, and citations. You can also reach out to them for help. More than just reaching out to your program, look at the graduate school admissions office. They might have direct help available for applicants. So honestly, faculty members and programs are constantly busy and doing 20,000 different things, and you send an email to a faculty member and most likely that email is lost. I can speak from experience. But when it comes to the admissions piece, the graduate school admissions office is directly created for that. So you can actually reach out to them to ask, hey, this program needs this. Is this something you can help me with? Some of the things to ask for in terms of clarification is like, how are you evaluating my writing sample, right? Like, is there a rubric? Is there a specific criteria maybe that's not been put out on the application, but if you ask, they might be able to tell you. And then another important piece is how much weight does the writing sample have, right? So if they are like, hey, this is just 10% of the grade, and say your personal statement or your research statement is, I don't know, 50%, right? So that way you know how to spend your time and how much you should still follow all the instructions, but in terms of the effort that you put in, you can sort of make those adjustments. And then, when I was like looking up information about written samples, I found that a lot of university pages themselves were offering help with the writing samples, right? So admissions offices themselves were being like, hey, we can help you with your writing sample, reach out to us. So whatever university you're applying to, just thoroughly search their admissions page and see what resources are available to them. So if you think about it, when you come for a graduate program at least at US universities, you have opportunities to go. There's a writing lab. There are opportunities of people who will edit, proofread your material for you. So it is not out of the blue to ask for that kind of help when you're applying for admissions, right? So people come in with all levels of English writing and speaking skills. So if there are like more technical things that you need help with, there might be help available. So make sure you thoroughly research the graduate school admission office website. So just finally, overall, for like summary of key points, these are the important things. Review the program guidelines. If the topic length format, make sure you follow those to a T. It's from a faculty perspective, like I said before, like it's the little things. If your cover page needs to be center aligned and it's left aligned or right aligned, it just automatically is like, this person's not followed the guidelines, right? So it's like simple things like that that might just like ding you. Make sure it's a relevant piece, so it aligns with the program, it shows your skills. Tailor your sample is that if you have something written, make sure it meets the requirements. And say you wrote it like 6 months ago and now you can like make it better. If you can tailor it, do that. Revise and polish, right? So I think similar to what Durgesh mentioned, like applying for graduate school can be a very lonely process. And just seek feedback, reach out to people you know who might be in the similar programs, ask for help. Like, hey, can you proofread this for me? Can you edit this for me? Do you think this meets the requirements of the program? So if anyone's applying to psychology, and I would love for more people from our community to come to psychology. It's a really great field. We need more Bahujan psychologists in research and practice. Please reach out to me. I will be happy to like proofread and check things for you. But please don't submit something without proofreading it, because it becomes extremely obvious. We all make mistakes, myself included, and these things really stand out in a graduate school application. So yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Ankita. You covered all the major points, and this is a really great point you raised. So honestly, whatever you said, particularly about graduate school, because I work in graduate school, so I have so many points, but I will not share right now. First opportunity goes to the participants. So for the participants, I would like to invite you all to raise your hand, or you can print your question in a chat box. So we will go one by one and we will discuss. But I would also like to point out one important point. The main intention of these events are not just about discussing or presenting about a particular topic, but also a community platform where, as a panelist like Durgesh and Ankita and other people, to raise some main bullet points and the rest to build a conversation around that. And also how you can make connection with us, with panelists, and with other participants. So please keep in mind, this is a community platform, how to connect, how to build your network, and how to take it forward from here. Because this is just a very limited, like 1.5 hour discussion, but the rest is up to you, how to build upon this platform, how to build upon this opportunity and take it forward. So now I would invite participants, either you can raise your hand or print your question in the chat box, and we will put to the panelist. Okay, you can take your time now. Take me the opportunity to ask question. Okay, so Durgesh, I mean, probably you raised that, but I was busy in logistics, so probably I missed it. But I would like to point out or highlight that in the personal statement, how should we, I mean, as an applicant, I'm asking how the applicant should focus on their personal identity or social background, which could be integral part of their academic program as well as their academic aspirations. So could you please highlight or speak a little bit about that, how you can point out your identity, your lived experience, which are connected with the main program or your academic aspiration?
Yeah, I think more and more universities in US are now asking for a personal statement which is different from your research statement, right? Or like statement of purpose, because I think what the current laws in US have asked race not to be a criteria, so they are asking for a personal statement where you can mention your experience as growing up, right? So I think more and more universities I was looking at, and everyone had like a research statement which is like 1,000 to 1,500 words, and a personal statement which is 500 words. So in case if there is a university which is not asking two separate statements, then you can still have intervene your like your identity or how your experiences as growing up or your experience in the Indian education system. I'm assuming everyone is from India over here right now. Like how that has informed your research question or that has informed your certain experiences. I think those are really important things that that folks over here are looking for. It's not like uniformity of like everyone had a similar experience or everyone went to a Dune school and came to US. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for some diversity of like experiences and knowledges. Like, so how that experience kind of informs your research, like what different perspectives that you can bring from that experience in the research, like how. So that I think all those things that you mentioned are really important in crafting a really good personal statement. So yeah, I think just, or also showing that I'm not sure in case if there was uh, an experience or something that happened which resulted in like low grades or something that so I think this also gives you an opportunity for you to justify why you have low grades or why you have certain things or why there was a break of 2 years, like why. So I think these are like different things that you need to craft and tailor it to a university. And it's more like I would say it's more like a narrative CV where you are telling them about your life story. Or it's also an opportunity. It's more like an interview, but a written thing where you have certain questions in mind, or you know that they're going to think about these questions and you need to answer those questions in a more narrative way.
Yeah, thank you, Durgesh. So we have one question in the chat box from Kashmira, and the question is that what mistake we should avoid while sending email to professor? And the second question is what should be the length of the SOP for the postdoc? Okay, so this is specific to postdoc. So anyone would like to take this question?
I'll answer the first one. For the second one, I'm not sure. Again, the postdoc requirements might be different. And I am not aware of a statement of purpose for postdoc. It might be subsumed under in the cover letter or research statement. So I'm not sure about that. I think postdocs are so different. I'll answer the mistakes to avoid while sending mail to professor. Firstly, email with a purpose and a question, right? So if you're sending me an email, what do you want from me? And that's not about being rude, but it's just, again, like I said, faculty members are getting hundreds of emails per day. If you are sending me an email as an applicant, I want to know what do you want me to respond with, right? So is there a specific question you want answered? So for example, in my program, it doesn't indicate on our website if faculty members are taking new graduate students for the following year. So that is a question you can ask me, like, hey, I'm really interested in your research area. I was wondering if you are open to taking graduate students for the next academic year, right? So whatever the question is, like, make sure there is a specific ask that you want answered. Other mistakes, always refer to someone as doctor, whatever. They can tell you like, okay, just call me by my first name, but just err on the side of like saying Dr. Nikalje, Dr. Rathod, Dr. Solanki very soon once the dissertation is done. So err on that side, but always have an ask, something specific, and follow up once in like a week or so, but don't harass the faculty member, like then probably like they're not available, they don't want to take you on, whatever, but you might still want to apply to that program, right? So don't take it personally if the person does not reply to you. That email might not be something that, I don't know, is like they consider important. And the other thing is like, don't ask questions that are easily answered on the website, right? Like if the program website is there, don't ask those questions to faculty members because they're like, it's written, read it. The other thing is if there are questions about like something specific to the application or something that can be answered by the admissions office, make sure you're directing the right question to the right subtle, and I think it's really hard to figure that out at the application stage. But just make sure you do the groundwork before emailing the faculty member. The faculty member is not your first point of contact when it comes to questions about your application, especially for the more technical pieces. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, thank you, Ankita. And I would like to add what Ankita said. So normally in application for postdoc, there is instruction like how to apply, and most likely there might, if there is a SOP, then there might be length. So like this many words, and if not there, then do not hesitate to write to the concerned person, like, okay, what should be the length, what should be the word count, and so on. That's absolutely fine here. Second thing, what Angita, you pointed out, very, very important, because I work in graduate school, and particularly I work with the fellowship and so on. And this is one of the most common thing, and this is for all the participant, how you frame your email and the subject line. Okay. Because as Ankita mentioned that people like either professional like me or Ankita faculty, we receive so many email. Okay. If your title is completely vague, irrelevant, or something, help me and blah blah, that won't work. So you have to be very, very professional. And I mean, you should learn, or other people can help you, like how to frame at least the subject line and the email itself, like the body. Any other question you can print in the chat box, or you can raise your hand.
I think just to add to
Please.
what has been said, I think getting a response is from a faculty member is not a make or break situation these days. At least I've seen, like, I was for preparing my presentation, I was looking at different university websites, and most of the website have, like, universities have said, like, contacting a faculty member in advance doesn't guarantee, and it's not encouraged. Most of the universities are saying that. So it doesn't even matter if the faculty member is responding. Like, just make sure that you have read that. Like, if it's not encouraged, don't message the email the faculty member, because they are not going to respond. So also getting a positive response from a faculty member doesn't mean that you're going to get through, because as far as I understand, it's the admission committee that decides and not an individual faculty member. So that faculty member may or may not be on the admissions committee. And there are a variety of factors which goes uh, in deciding who is going to get admission. It's not the individual faculty member.
Yeah, thank you, Durgesh. And other thing is that, if you make any connection with faculty by any means, that is very, very important. Just randomly writing is like not a good idea, as Durgesh pointed out. But building relation with a graduate student, or building that network, and then gradually, if you reach out to faculty, that would be a good strategy. And honestly, all these things, building that network takes time. It's not one email and like you got the lottery. No, it takes time to build relation, build network, and so on. Okay, there is another question. How do you know if sending emails to professors is encouraged or not in that particular university?
I think it's mentioned on most of the websites. Like, if you go to the website, look enough, they would mention, like, we discourage students, prospective students, from writing to professors or something like that. They would have said, or if they mention, like, you should be writing to a professor, then go ahead and write. But generally, in my experience, writing to a professor doesn't necessarily give you admission. As in some cases it might, but in general, I would say it's not a make or break situation. I think sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to add.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was actually just going to second your point in terms of what faculty are looking for in an application package. We all have biases, and the university is very much committed across the board to not let your biases impact how you're evaluating. So we do have like rubrics and criteria that we are grading all the applicants on. So again, thinking about, like there is no criteria for have you talked to the student before, or do you have a relationship with the student before, right? Ultimately it's going to come down to like whatever is in your package. So again, like don't be discouraged, like Durgesh is saying, if that is not if a faculty member does not respond to you. I would say one of the ways in which in terms of like building that relationship, like Bharat said, so something like, I'm really interested in applying to blah, blah, blah program at your university. I was wondering if I could speak to a graduate student or the student body to learn about their experiences in the program. That to me as a faculty member, I'm like, oh, great. Yeah. Thanks for your interest. Here's like CCing you or forwarding your email to the student group, and they'll pick it up from there. So stuff like that is okay, but don't do the emailing to, because that's going to help your application. Do it because you truly want to know and are interested. Yeah.
Okay, there is a question from Badusha PM. And what if a third year research scholar in India aspires for admission in the US? In the SOP, how can he justify why he doesn't want to continue in India if he or she doesn't accomplish something excellent in these 3 years? Will it be seen in a negative manner? That's a tricky one. Anyway,
I
please.
don't know. I can speak from my personal experience. I was in an integrated MPhil PhD program at TISS when I was applying. I just finished my MPhil when I got into the PhD program. So I don't think so it matters as long as you are able to justify or have a solid research question and stuff like that. So I think it's all about having a narrative which you are able to justify in some sort of way. I know folks who have been in PhD programs in India have got into US like in their second years, and yeah. So I think it's all about building that narrative and having a solid research question and a good writing sample and everything. So it's about how you present yourself and how you justify everything.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Don't worry about what you have or have not accomplished. Make a strong case for why you want to come to the program, right? Ultimately, that is what matters. And in this case, like this, don't write negative things about your previous program, even if it is true and you've had the absolute worst experience there. Don't shit on your previous program, because that'll reflect poorly on you. Just keep the focus very positive and keep the focus on like why I want to come to this program and why I'm enthusiastic and why I'm excited and why this makes sense and how this program can like really meet my needs. So taking a very strengths based and positive perspective as to why. So make sure that is the focus of your narrative. People come from all sorts of backgrounds. Like people come to psychology PhD programs and do so well without a psychology background, because they have the enthusiasm and all sorts of like things that you need to be successful in a PhD program. So don't focus on what you don't have, focus on what you can do and what you can achieve. So yeah, and give yourself permission to like envision that and dream that.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Ankita. You pointed out very good point that, and I would like to add what Ankita said, like not necessarily if you are coming from that particular discipline and you're applying to that only discipline. If your work, if your passion, so two aspects, and this is particularly my personal sort of journey. There are two important aspects. One is theory, another is praxis, right? So theory is all about academic work, academic your skill set, research paper, grade point, blah blah blah. Other important point, mostly this is in social science. I don't know much about sciences, But in social science, your praxis or your practice, that matters a lot for some faculty. So if your theory and praxis both, like align with each other, or if you might be, a little bit weak in academics, but you are strong in praxis, so the praxis will basically compensate in some way. So if that is a possibility and that is like your kind of a focus, or if you can do it, that would be great. That is very impressive. And people really value a lot here, in particularly in US academia. Please feel free to ask question. I mean, nobody will judge you. There is no wrong or right question. Okay, there is a Lakhindra Gogoi's question. What aspects particularly gives importance for selections to pursue PhD in any program? How they know what relevance of the research topic? Is it depends on a perspective of a professor or other things? I think Lakhinder is himself is an assistant professor at DHE Assam. Yeah, thank you, Lakhinder. Yeah.
I can share a little bit in terms of a really good question, right? So, not just on the perspective of the professor, but one of the ways to think about one of the ways to think about this is, so if you read my profile, you want to apply to my program, you want to work under me, and you read the research that I have done, you read some of the papers, go read some of the papers that I've published, that'll give you a sense of like, okay, this is what this faculty is interested in, and that's how you can like craft your narrative of like, okay, I want to be able to do this exact research, or I'm interested in this, right? That's one of the ways to do it. The other way, similarly, is also thinking about like even getting a general sense of like, okay, for example, if you're coming into psychology, if you do some research, you'll find out that research around caste is pretty much non-existent, like it's just coming up, or even broadly about, say, South Asian American or South Asian psychological research is very limited, right? So having some sense of like the field that you're wanting to come into, and having a sense of like what is there and what is not there, right? So that are like two ways. One, what is this professor doing? What have they written about? Right. So if you want to catch my interest, you should want to study what I'm studying, right? Or want to be mentored in that way, and some sense of like what is available in the field and what is not, in terms of what you want to pursue.
Yeah, there is another question from Kashmira again. If sending an email to a professor doesn't yield a response, what are the alternative strategies to find a host university or professor for Fulbright and Humboldt fellowship, given that these fellowships require a host institution? This is particularly to the postdoc question. Similar expression, Ankita, here.
This is not something I like know about, honestly, the postdoc stuff.
Okay, I would try to answer it because I work in graduate school. So, I mean, yeah, for the host institution, you need to have a solid connection in that particular department, right? And if you are not getting a response from any faculty, that is almost like, I would say, a tough situation, because you will go to that institution and you will work with a particular faculty. So if there is no anchor point, with the faculty, then that's a very difficult, unless they have a different kind of setting. So you have to again write to the faculty department and so on. So again, back to my original point, you need to build that relation and network, and based on that, you get support. And sometimes, in my case, um, even your faculty will help you in the admission process. Like even framing a SOP, even other kind of like funding, fellowship kind of application and so on, they will help you. So I would say building that connection network is very, very important and critical for your enrollment and your funding.
And also depending on the I mean, this is I don't know specifically about this, but also like at least in the US context, there are so many universities, so many programs in so many disciplines. So if it is not that specific professor, there might be someone else. And sometimes these things might not be easily available through a Google search, but if there are specific, like you want to look specifically at universities, departments, like really keep searching, there might be someone there that doesn't automatically catch your eye. So again, it might just be a numbers game as well, where it's like instead of one, you email 20.
Yeah. So I would like to add just a quick point and then go to another question. I think you can go to that particular website, like their college program or academic program, and scan all the pages on the website. The faculty, the student, what kind of program they're offering, what kind of research they do. This is very, very important point because those information give you click an idea like how to connect with the particular faculty. And sometimes, this is my personal suggestion, it is no harm to connect with the student. You know, you can write to graduate student because sometimes they can also help you or give some important information about the program, about the faculty, about the college, and that might be very helpful. So next question again, Badusha PM. In some cases, the research might fall under two schools. My research focuses on the representation of Dalit Muslim identity in Indian literature, which is new and significant. So this might fall under literature, religious studies, and divinity study. I'm purely a literature scholar. In this case, we have to write different SOPs, right? Could you shed some light on that, on it? I would add to this question because I was thinking about that. Please add or mention something about interdisciplinary work, because in India we don't have that kind of a focus interdisciplinary, very, very compartmentalized, right? But here there is a tremendous scope about interdisciplinary work and sometimes unimaginable kind of interdisciplinary work. So please answer this question and add that point. Whoever, open.
I see this as a positive, right? And yeah, definitely 100% what Bharat said, the interdisciplinary scholarship, and really emphasizing that. And also, like, again, depends on, in terms of writing different SOPs, now depends what program you're applying to, right? Like, are you applying to a religious studies program? Are you applying to a literature program? Because in either you could do the interdisciplinary work, right? So I would say that it is possible to like craft one really strong statement, and maybe you can like change a little bit of the focus in terms of like what you can do or want to do based on the school that you're applying to, right? So but I see this as a strength of your work rather than a negative thing, and I'm glad you've received optimistic responses, um because yeah, you can speak to both the pieces. This is, yeah, it's a plus.
Yeah, I completely agree what Ankita said. This is really plus. The only tricky part is how you frame your statement, your research with that interdisciplinary perspective. You know, that is the main point, and that is a tricky part. Durgesh, would you like to add?
Yeah, I think just to say that a caution tale would be make sure like the department that you're applying to has some sort of interdisciplinary focus, right? But if you're applying to a program which is not, which is very like in a sense like classical and doesn't believe in interdisciplinary thing, then there is less likelihood of you getting through that program. So just make sure that people are doing enough interdisciplinary work in that program before you apply. So just look at the website, look at what has been happening in that department, who is working with which faculty, like are there collaborative work by the faculty member with the other departments, right? So if that kind of indicates like there is a lot of interdisciplinary work which is happening, because I I can see like especially in like social sciences like sociology, political science, and anthropology, like they want particular kind of language to be written. Like when you're writing, they want a sociological language when you're crafting your SOP, right? So if you're focusing on interdisciplinary, some of this language or methods can get interpreted in different ways. So you want that you need to be rooted in a discipline, at least when you're applying for not an interdisciplinary program, I would say that. But again, this is all depending on the program that you are applying and how the faculty in that program are working.
There is another question, but honestly, I would like to see the question from new people because same people are asking, and we should give opportunity to all people. So I would come to this question later. But first, any new person would like to ask question or print their question in the chat box.
I think there was a question earlier that was maybe missed because I
Yeah,
could have
please. Which one?
at the same time. It says, is it okay to send my SOP to the professor, or should I just state my research interest? Don't send your SOP to the professor. They're not going to read it. If you are emailing them with the question, then yeah, you can state your research interest, but sending any of your application materials ahead of time to the professor is not going, it's just completely pointless. Unless for whatever reason they're asking for it, but most likely that's not going to be the case. So don't send any of that to your a professor you want to work under.
Yeah, should we go to the last one? My specialization is in gender studies, and I have sent emails to several professors. While I received responses, they mentioned we also do not have the administrative structure or resources to help with all of the paperwork for external funding or even the everyday details of bringing someone to campus, which is extensive. True.
What's the question, Bharat? I don't think
The
I got
last one from the Kashmira. Okay. So like, it's,
I think you might have directly gotten it. It's not in the main chat.
oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Let me put to all. Yeah. Okay. I work in graduate school, so I can take this opportunity. Honestly, for external funding, even internal funding, there is so many streams for the internal funding. So your faculty can help you, particularly regarding their program, their particular funding. Other than that, external funding is a very different sort of a game, so they might not able to help you.
Can I just add? So just some clarification there, right? So if you are already admitted into the program and if you're working under like a particular professor, they might be, once you're their student, they might be able to help you with your application. So like I've helped my graduate students secure like internal funding from the university that had nothing to do with my program, because now she's my student, so I'm responsible for those things. But when you're coming in as like before you're admitted into the program, that is going to be some heavy lifting that's going to have to happen from your end, because the program's not going to help with that. But in terms of finding sources of funding, again, the graduate admissions office is the place you want to contact if external funding is needed in your case.
Yeah, but honestly, I work in graduate school, and normally when you ask for external funding help, they are not able to, because the reason is that, they have their own internal funding source, right? And external funding is also deeply, connected with the particular faculty or school or program, right? So unless and until your department, program, and faculty, they are not, supporting you in internal as well as external funding, it would be extremely, extremely difficult to find external funding. We have last couple of minutes and then we will conclude the session. So please print your question, or you can directly ask your question. Please feel free to ask question. Don't feel that it is the right question or wrong question. Okay, if not, then I think we should conclude this session. Okay. First of all, thank you so much, Durgesh and Angita. That is a wonderful presentation, and you raised great points. And the participation of the participants, that also enriched the discussion. So thank you. And can we use your presentation, in case, for people's their knowledge? So we can certainly pass it on.
Yes, and I will
Okay.
share the handout on email to you.
Yeah, sure. Please. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
the
fine.
last point, everyone, not this one, sorry. Hold on. Please take the survey for our feedback and also to pass on the information, the handouts and the presentation. So I again posted the survey link. Please take the survey, and thank you so much for your participation. And please join again for the another 3 sessions, 3 events which will be doing on July 28th, August 18th, and September 15th. Thank you. Thank you all. Take care.